Incheon Harbor is emerging as a cruise liner hub in Northeast Asia. We look into the economic benefits of increasing port of call by cruise liners at the Incheon Harbor as well as the city's plan for its new project. The effects of Abenomics is beginning to weaken following a short run of success. Will Abenomics come to an end? In case the Japanese economic policy works, how will it affect the Korean economy? The wearable computer and flexible display. The concept is no longer part of our imagination, but very much a reality and soon to be commercialized as a product. We bring you the success story of a company that specializes in making laser machinery for skincare and medical treatment. North Korean authorities have forced the return of 9 young defectors. North Korea continues to put pressure on its defectors to come back. What is the North Korean intention?
Hello, I'm Andrew Salmon and welcome to Bizline. Sit tight, we've got a busy show coming up. We've got features covering everything from cosmetic laser surgery to cruise ships, from Abenomics to North Korea. But before we come to those, let's begin the show, as always, with a look at the latest business and economic stories that have been hitting the headlines across South Korea this week.
The city of Seoul is looking to raise the taxi fare, possibly starting in September. It will be the first fare hike since 2009. This year's proposed fee hike could raise the base fare by as much as 72 cents to $2.86. Seoul residents are not so happy about the news, with some saying that any kind of fare hike should be preceded by improvements in customer service. The city of Seoul says it will continue to review the fare hike issue before making its final decision in September. The government is mulling over raising its economic growth outlook for this year. According to a Ministry of Finance and Strategy official, the government may raise the growth rate to 2.7% from the 2.3% projection 3 months ago, considering the supplementary budget and the central bank's key interest rate cut. It does stand above Singapore, which is projected to grow 2.4% this year. Last year, Korea's economy grew a mere 2%, the slowest growth in 3 years. According to data released by the Bank of Korea, the number of credit card transactions was the highest in the world in 2011. The central bank says the government promoted the use of credit cards as a means to boost domestic demand and tax revenue after the Asian financial crisis in 1997. Korea's exports and trade surplus of tech products hit record highs last month, backed by increasing global demand for Korean smartphones and semiconductors. According to the Science and Trade Ministries, exports in May posted more than $15 billion, up over 17% from a year earlier. Experts say IT powerhouse Korea seems to be weathering the global economic downturn by logging brisk sales. Korea's biggest steelmaker, POSCO, was the world's 5th largest crude steel producer in the world last year, dropping a notch from the previous year. According to data by the World Steel Association, India's ArcelorMittal retained its top ranking with almost 94 million tons of crude steel, followed by Japan's Nippon Steel and Sumitomo Metal with nearly 48 million tons.
Incheon, the industrial port city serving Seoul, has not previously been a key stopover for international cruise ships or cruise liners. But that may be about to change. Having welcomed its first cruise ship to Incheon in March, the port city is now furiously upgrading its facilities as it works to transform itself into the Northeast Asian stopover of choice for these monarchs of the ocean, and of course for their cargoes of very prosperous passengers.
The Incheon port is getting busy preparing for the arrival of the Hana, a 47,000-ton holiday cruise liner carrying more than 1,000 passengers. The Hana, China's largest and first luxury cruise liner operated by Star Cruises, made its maiden voyage to the Incheon port from Tianjin, stopping over at Jeju Island. And this won't be the only time, as she is scheduled to make weekly journey from Tianjin to the Incheon port until October, making the journey between the two countries more memorable.
第一次坐这个，以前都是坐飞机嘛，这次然后坐船来的。坐船的时候感觉也挺好的，然后人船这么美丽，这么漂亮。
The launching of regular China-Korea holiday cruise route also reflects the change in how Asians enjoy their holiday.
The cruise market has been there for more than 100 years, but the Asian cruise market is just starting to grow up. Started some 10-15 years ago and growing and growing. And with 1.5 billion people in China and 50 million in Korea, you have a very good potential market.
In reflection of the rising popularity of holiday cruising, there are more cruise liners scheduled to come to the Incheon port this year. More than 100 holiday cruise liners expected to come to Incheon, doubling from last year's performance. This also means South Koreans are enjoying this fastly growing means of taking holiday, and taking the cruise at the nearest port from Seoul looks to be the best choice.
한국 인천 그 항에서 말이야 이런 아주 훌륭한 크루즈를 타고 해외 나갈 수 있는 거 얼마나 기쁜지 몰라.
And more Korean travelers are excited to be part of this newly growing holiday cruise industry.
지금 앞에서도 보이다시피 뭐 수영장도 있고 해서 굉장히 설레입니다. 애기와 되게 즐거운 시간을 보낼 수 있을 것 같아요.
And no wonder the holiday cruise liner offers so many enjoyments and pampering to our passengers, and the cabins are conveniently designed to accommodate the travelers as they would stay at a hotel. The cruise liner offers everything a traveler would want, even in the middle of the ocean. Restaurants, a swimming pool, fitness club, duty-free shop, casino, and so much more to make every minute on the ship fully entertaining and never a moment of boredom. People can conveniently use the facilities on the vessel to make their traveling experience luxurious, which makes it so attractive for them to choose the all-inclusive cruise rather than being cramped up in a plane for hours and hours to be flown over to a holiday destination. And in Northeast Asia, the Incheon port is fastly gaining recognition as the perfect cruise destination.
중국인들이 본격적으로 크루즈 관광 시대가 열리고 있습니다. 거의 한 1억 명이 이제 크루즈 관광을 하게 될 걸로 기대가 된다 그럽니다. 그런데 가장 가까운 도시, 중국에서 가장 가까이 닿을 수 있는 도시가 인천이기 때문에 또 인천이 수도권의 관문이고 서울이나 또 인천국제공항과 연계시켜서 제주도나 세계 각국으로 갈 수 있는 데가 바로 우리 인천이기 때문에 앞으로 이 크루즈항의 기착지로서도 크게 각광을 받을 걸로 기대됩니다.
First of all, henna is expected to come to Incheon 32 times this year, and more than 75,000-ton cruise ship, Costa Victoria from the world-renowned Costa Cruise Company, will be coming to Incheon 60 times. And from July, Royal Caribbean's Voyager and Mariner of the Seas, which are 3 times larger in capacity than the ever-so-famous Titanic, will be coming to Incheon for at least 15 times this year. That figure is definitely on the upside in future. The industry data shows that holiday cruise takers are expected to increase to about 1 million people in Northeast Asia and more than 1.7 million in Asia region by 2015.
아무래도 이제 크루즈선이 들어오게 되면은 저희 쪽에서는 그 부가가치가 아무래도 늘지 않느냐 이렇게 생각할 수가 있을 것 같아요. 그래서 역시 경제적 측면이 가장 강하다 이렇게 말씀드릴 수 있을 것 같아요. 일단 뭐 저희 쪽에 인천의 경우에 있어서는 아마 100척 이상이 금년에 들어올 것 같고요. 그러다 보면은 한 15만 명 이상 전체적으로 경제적인 부가가치 그 금액을 보게 되면 한 750억 원 이상의 아마 그런 효과가 나지 않겠냐 이렇게 생각이 됩니다.
In fact, industry report shows that the amount one cruise passenger from overseas spend to travel in South Korea equals to handling 6 containers, and that is certainly a value-added industry. The timing of the IPA's decision to build a bigger and better international cruise terminal couldn't be any more perfect than it is. The newly expanded terminal and berths at the Incheon port will be able to accommodate the likely increased number of people and traffic, providing its visitors a memorable time.
내년도에 아시안 게임이 열리게 돼 있습니다. 그래서 아시안 게임이 열리는 9월 전에 적어도 2개 선석을 미리 잠정적으로 저희가 하여튼 오픈을 할 그런 생각입니다. 그래서 아무래도 좀 개장을 하게 되면은 접안이 가능하도록 이렇게 좀 조치를 하고 여기는 아마 8만 톤급 정도까지 수용이 가능할 것으로 이렇게 보고 있습니다. 그리고 2016년도까지는 15만 톤급의 크루즈선이 수용될 수 있도록 그렇게 해서 국제 여객 이 크루즈부들을 완공할 예정입니다. 아마 이렇게 된다고 하게 되면은 앞으로 이 동북아 쪽에 크루즈의 가장 어떤 중심 거점이 될 수 있지 않겠느냐.
International terminal construction began last year, aiming for partial completion by August 2014 in time for the 2014 Incheon Asian Games. Currently, the construction is underway to accommodate 2 cruise liners of 80,000 tons in capacity, with 35% of the work complete. When the project is finished, the terminal will consist of 8 berths in total and will also include a 150,000-ton cruise berths, a 50,000-ton and 6 30,000-ton cruises. The facilities will be highly competitive in the Northeast Asia region, including Kai Tak Cruise Terminal in Hong Kong.
That you are planning for a cruise terminal further south, that means it's less hours to get in here, and with good communication, it will be perfect.
The Incheon Port opened exactly 130 years ago, opening doorways for the outside world to enter Seoul, the capital of South Korea. The port has remained the central point of logistics for the Seoul-Incheon metropolitan area. And transformation of the Incheon Port as the cruise hub of Northeast Asia seems to be a natural choice.
수도권의 관문인 인천항이 그중에서 가장 유리한 그런 위치에 있고 선호가 되고 있다. 이렇게 말씀드릴 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 그리고 또 인천항의 경우에 있어서는 역시 그 공항이 위치하고 있기 때문에 크루즈를 타고서 와서 공항으로 해서 다시 돌아간다든가 또는 경우에 따라서 반대로 공항을 들어와서 역시 크루즈를 타고 다시 나갈 수 있는 이런 것도 역시 가능하다 이렇게 볼 수 있기 때문에 여러 가지 점에서 인천항이 이 크루즈의 어떤 기항지로서의 그런 것을 갖추고 있다 이렇게 말씀드릴 수 있겠습니다.
Already visitors are opting to tour Incheon to appreciate its history, culture and food. A honeymoon couple has decided to come to Korea on henna and they boarded a tourist bus to tour around Incheon. From a traditional Korean house to artistic experience at an art platform. So many things to experience. But they also enjoyed trying out Korean-style Chinese food, the black noodle, jjajangmyeon, at the Incheon Chinatown, which came into existence along with the opening of the Incheon Port more than a century ago. For them, it was a rich experience in Incheon, which they will cherish for a lifetime.
但是仁川这边有中国城，而且中国城后的自然风景，还有山，还有花，景色也非常好，还能看到大海，非常值得一玩。
The husband was equally happy to have shown his wife from China the beauty of Korea.
이번에 와이프랑 결혼 기념으로 크루즈를 타고 인천을 처음 왔는데 볼 것도 많고 생각보다 경치도 좋고 아주 즐거웠습니다.
As more visitors come to Incheon, the local economy will benefit and enable her to bring further improvements.
그래서 국가 경제는 물론 우리 인천에도 상당히 큰 도움을 줄 것이다. 이렇게 하나 좀 얘기할 수 있고 또 하나 얘기할 수 있다고 하면은 역시 그 국가 브랜드 또는 이미지 문제입니다. 역시 크루즈 시장을 통해 가지고 저희 국가의 어떤 이미지나 또 국가의 브랜드를 상승시킬 수 있지 않겠느냐 이렇게 생각하고 있습니다.
The Incheon Port opened in January 1883 during the Joseon dynasty by foreigners wishing to enter Korea. A century later in 2013, the Incheon Port is going through yet another transformation from a big harbor of containers to being one of the biggest cruise passenger terminal in the world. And with its geological merits being closest to the center of Korea and Seoul, it is sure to become the hub of all travelers in Northeast Asia.
Japan's economy has recently been booming from a weak yen and from massive government spending. But now when it comes to the implementation of actual structural reforms, Abenomics seems to be losing market confidence. Now, here in South Korea, there's been massive criticism of the weak yen policy. But if the Japanese economy does start to falter, some experts here now warn that that could be equally bad for Korea. So what are the answers? Well, to answer this, hopefully we'll get some delivered by our guest today. Dr. Oh Jung-gun is the president of the Asia Finance Society, and he is an expert on all matters fiscal and financial in the Asian region. Dr. Oh, thank you for joining us on Bizline.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yes. Okay, well, let's get started. Firstly, Dummy's Guide. Can you define Abenomics for us? Because many people think it refers simply to a weaker yen policy, and I think it's a lot more than that.
Yeah. The Japanese economy has experienced a long-term, 20-year long-term stagnation of low economic growth and deflation during the last 20 years. That's why the new Prime Minister Shinzo Abe of a new government started to implement new economic policy, so-called Abenomics, composed of three elements. They called three arrows, such as expansionary monetary policy, expansionary fiscal policy, and finally, structural reform and economic growth policy.
Gotcha. Now, I believe French President Francois Hollande is visiting Japan in order to learn about Abenomics. The G7 has been very pro-Abenomics, and of course the international investment community has been pouring money into Japanese stocks. But Korea has been very critical about Abenomics. Tell me, why this disconnect over Abenomics between Korea and the international community?
Oh, that's very interesting. For instance, Japan, in its economy, even though Japanese economy has stagnated during the last 20 years, but still, Japan is the third largest economy in the world, following the US economy and Chinese economy, and then the third largest Japanese economy. Therefore, if the Japanese economy will recover, world economic demand will recover. So the Japanese economic recovery means the boosting world economic demand. Yeah. That's why the Japanese economic recovery is very important to the world economic recovery, because world economic now has been struggling during the last 5 years to recover. So Japanese economic recovery is one of the very key element to recover world economic recovery. But on the other hand, in case of Korea, also the other East Asian neighbor countries, including Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, have some different point of view from other advanced countries, because East Asian neighbor countries, including Korea, also has a lot of competing situation with Japanese export in global export market. For instance, in particular, in case of Korea, most important export product of Korea has now competing situation
directly with Japan.
Yeah, right. For instance, vehicle, also the mobile phone, also the other shipbuilding, steel,
electronics, consumer electronics,
semiconductor also. Yeah. So the major Korean export products are competing with the Japanese one in global market. Therefore, Japanese yen depreciation, on the other hand, the Korean won appreciation has direct
negative impact,
damage to Korean export. That's why most East Asian neighbor countries, including Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, are worried about the Japanese yen depreciation. Ben Bernanke, the chairman of the Fed, said Japanese Abenomics is not beggarly neighbor policy, but enriching the neighbor policy, something like that. That is the so-called just for them, US and the European economy. They have no competing product in global market. But East Asian neighbor countries are totally different
competitors.
Yeah. We are now for the East Asian neighbor countries, Japanese Abenomics is purely beggarly neighbor policy.
But as you noted, in Korea here, it is seen as a beggar thy neighbor policy. This is seriously an issue for Korea. The weak yen is undermining, Koreans' export competitiveness versus Japan's exports. What countermeasures can or should Korea take if this persists, which it looks likely to?
Yeah, before countermeasures, I think I would like to introduce our experience, two experience. One is Korean experience before 1997 crisis. Before 1997 crisis, Korean won was appreciated against Japanese yen by 30%. That's why at that time Korean current account was deteriorated so much.
So fast, yeah.
And finally we had a crisis. Also, before 2008 crisis, Korean won was appreciated against Japanese yen by 47%. At the time also we had very sharp, very enormous deterioration of the current account. That's why we had also 2008 crisis. This time also so far since beginning of Abenomics, Korean won has been appreciated against Japanese yen about 33% so far. And also we expect the Japanese yen will depreciate more, at least by the end of this year or maybe next year also. In such case, Korean won is expected to be appreciated against Japanese yen more than 40% again.
That sounds very ominous. You're suggesting we have a financial crisis on the horizon?
Yeah, in such case, I'm worried about the recurrence of the previous experience. That's why many Korean economists, including me, are worried so much about the Japanese yen depreciation, very sharp depreciation in short period.
Now, certainly Japan has Abenomics, but here in Korea there's talk of Gunhaenomics after President Park. We've seen the Bank of Korea has slashed the interest rate. We're seeing various measures to improve household debt, to improve the real estate market, and so on and so forth. These are in their early days, but is this enough to do anything close to what Abenomics has done in Japan, which is raise the market, raise growth rates, and really seize the attention of the international investment community? Or does South Korea need to be more radical?
I think Koreanomics and Abenomics are totally different paradigm.
Sure.
Abenomics is a very radical paradigm to pursue the economic recovery. But on the other hand, Koreanomics is to pursue to achieve stable economic growth with decreasing interest rate or supplementary projects, and also, as you mentioned, resolution of household debt, etc. So Koreanomics is actually very stable and moderate economic policy paradigm. This is different from the Abenomics. Also, the Koreanomics will not influence the Japanese economy.
Right.
On the other hand, the Abenomics is influencing directly to the Korean economy. To maintain our stability of economic macroeconomy, we need more to stabilize our macroeconomic situation. For instance, to decrease the impact of the capital inflow from the Japan. Also, to stabilize our exchange rate situation. So I think so far Koreanomics has not introduced such a policy in terms of international finance. But I think the new Korean government need to introduce more countermeasures to stabilize our macroeconomic situation.
Understood. But looking forward, it seems like there aren't too many good options. If Korea does introduce some form of capital controls, exchange rate controls, a new exchange rate mechanism, that's going to invoke a great deal of criticism.
I'd like to say not control, actually management, because in the world now, international finance systems such as G20 or IMF said they like to use terminology management rather than control, because of the nowadays US, Japan, Eurozone are pursuing the expansionary monetary policy. So their big zones monetary policies are influencing very enormously small emerging economy. Therefore, the G20 and also G20 summit and also the IMF agree for small emerging economy to introduce some management rather than control.
Regardless of whether we call it control or management, I think we're essentially talking about the same thing. You want to slow down the volatility and somehow.
Great.
Right. And that's not going to be popular.
That's the main point.
Right.
Just only to stabilize volatility. So I think based on such international agreement, international consensus, Korea must reconsider our capital flow system and also the exchange rate system. We think it should be based on the international consensus or international agreement of G20 or IMF system, etc. So I think so far, as far as I understand, IMF and the G20 has agreed already in case of extreme volatility of international financial transaction, we can introduce some management system.
Okay. When might these, I call them control, you call them management, when might the system be imposed and what form will it take?
I think the main difference between management control is just only against foreigners, foreign residents, okay. But the management system may apply together, samely, without discrimination against the foreign residents. So that means the capital management system will apply same to resident and non-resident together.
And when might this actually come into practice?
Already Korean won has appreciated more than 30% against Japanese yen. So now I think it's time now already to reconsider such system. Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Rowe, thank you very much for being on Bizline. We've got some stormy days ahead.
Much, yeah.
Okay. Imagine a computer screen that can bend like paper, can be worn like a wristwatch, or even be incorporated into your clothing. I'm not making this up. Not only does this technology already exist, it's approaching commercialization in the very near future. Now, the key behind it is the high-density semiconductor. In our ICT segment, we'll be talking to some of the Korean researchers who are developing this and also looking at some of its possible applications.
This is a scene from a movie, The Iron Man. The main character sees outside from the monitor overlaid on the monitor in his helmet, and the information needed for a combat appears on top. That's not all. The computer embedded in his suit executes voice commands, controlling the weapons and searching information. But it won't take long before people can actually try out such wearable computers in the real world. Let's explore the wearable computer technology, the next generation technology that leads smart innovation of the future.
Tested for a few months.
Google Inc. introduced smart glasses, Google Glass, in May. On the surface of the glasses, a startup screen pops up as it would on a computer or a smartphone, and a cursor can be controlled by scrolling the glass frame. There is no need to use hands at all when taking a photo, messaging the photo to a friend, and receiving a guide to a final destination.
Isolating yourself when you're, out and about looking at your phone, I feel it's kind of emasculating. Can we make something that frees your hands?
A wearable computer is a small and light computing device that the user can wear under or on top of clothing, literally meaning wearing high-tech electronic devices. Wearable computing devices in various types, such as not only glasses and footwear, but also a wristwatch, clothing and a bracelet, are either under development or already introduced in the market.
일반 사람들이 이때까지 시계를 차고 일반 안경을 차는 것처럼 미래에는 그런 인문 컴퓨터들이 굉장히 작아지고 그리고 착용하기 편해지면서 지금 사용자들이 시계나 안경을 차는 것처럼 쉽게 착용할 수 있을 것으로 보고 있습니다.
Google introduced the talking smart shoes in March, and this product shows how a wearable computer can free hands and enable its wearer to interact with a computer. The footwear can have conversations with its user through a Google Plus account, and it encourages its wearer when the sensor inside the shoes detects that he or she is running. It also marks the places that the wearer has been to on the Google map. Meanwhile, Sony Corp already commercialized its smartwatch at an affordable price, which has been gaining recognition in the market. It is able to pick a watch designed by running an app while it works in sync with various types of applications, such as music library, Twitter, Facebook, voice call, and text messaging. Apple Inc. is also in the competitive race to develop wearable computers and chose to roll out the iWatch. In South Korea, smartphone makers have been aggressive in developing smartwatch devices too. Pantech Co. unveiled a design concept of its Vega watch, and Samsung Electronics Co. has been preparing the Galaxy Watch, a new product lineup after its Galaxy Note series. Why is competition for the development of wearable computers so intense in the IT industry? Experts predict the wearable computer market to grow by more than 10 times in 2 years. The company that dominates the wearable computer market later will be able to reorganize the IT industry for sure. But there are technological challenges to overcome before the commercial launch of wearable computers.
웨어러블 컴퓨터에서 굉장히 중요한 부분이 착용성입니다. 즉 착용을 했을 때 불편한가 아닌가 이것이 굉장히 중요한데요. 이 불편하지 않게 하기 위해서는 아무래도 소재가 조금 휘어지는 것이 훨씬 더 유리합니다. 그래서 휘어지는 디스플레이라든지 아니면 휘어지는 반도체 그런 기술이 있을 때 비로소 입는 컴퓨터가 조금 더 착용성이 좋게 사용자에게 제공될 수 있습니다.
A wide range of studies on a flexible display have been underway, but it has been impossible to produce a flexible semiconductor large-scale integrated circuit which can handle and save mega-size information. Therefore, it has been hard to develop a wearable computer that is flexible enough to fit a curved human body. But recently, a team of researchers at KAIST succeeded in developing a bendable large-scale integrated circuit, LSI, that is a core technology of the wearable computer.
유연한 전자소자 시대가 바로 앞에 이제 나타날 것인데요. 디스플레이 하나만 휘어지는 게 아니라 그러한 것들을 구동시킬 수 있는 그런 IC 칩 또는 스마트폰의 두뇌 역할을 하는 AP, 고직접 메모리, 무선 통신 소자까지도 전부 휘어질 수 있는
The team developed a flexible semiconductor circuit by replacing a nano-thin silicon chip circuit on a plastic substrate without deformation after creating the large-scale integrated circuit for wireless communication on monocrystalline silicone.
두꺼운 실리콘 기판의 뒷면을 제거를 해서 머리카락의 1000분의 1 두께, 즉 100나노미터 정도로 만들면 매우 얇기 때문에 쉽게 휘어지는 특성을 가질 수 있습니다.
The development of the flexible large-scale integrated circuit will likely help the local engineers move a step closer to taking the lead in developing not only wearable computers but also other next-generation electronic technologies, including rollable electronic newspapers.
구부러져 있는 걸 확 펴가지고 어떤 디스플레이가 돼서 영화를 볼 수도 있고요. 다시 이렇게 감아서 와치가 될 수도 있고 또는 그걸로 컴퓨터를 할 수도 있고 이메일을 보낼 수 있는 많은 것들을 포함할 수 있다고 봅니다. 그래서 웨어러블 컴퓨터, 플렉서블 디스플레이, 플렉서블 전자소자라든 것들은 다 연결되어 있는 어떤 기술이라고 생각을 합니다.
Still, it will take some time before commercialization of the wearable computer because of technological issues such as short battery life, high costs, and any possible adverse effect on the human body.
특히 플랫폼 기술이라든지 아니면 영상 인식이라든지 아니면 음성 인식 같은 기술들은 해외보다 좀 떨어지는 것이 사실입니다. 특히 최근에 많은 있는 컴퓨터들은 안드로이드 기반으로 이제 개발이 되고 있는데요. 우리나라는 이런 안드로이드 같은 플랫폼이 이제 많이 발달되어 있지 않기 때문에 조금 이 분야에 대한 투자가 많이 필요하다고 생각됩니다.
From a supercomputer for research to a personal computer, and from a notebook PC to a smartphone. A computer has been evolving into a smaller, portable form that could fit our body. And the wearable computer is expected to bring smart innovation to our life in the near future.
Firstly, let me apologize to you, the viewer, for this, my face. As you can see, it's rather ugly. But if I were a Korean, there's a good chance I would be considerably more handsome. And that's not simply due to these good Northeast Asian genetics or the healthy Korean diet. It's due to the fact that Korea today is the global mecca for cosmetic surgery. The good news is, if you fancy having a nip and a tuck while you're in Seoul, you no longer have to risk the surgeon's knife. You can opt for the much less invasive laser therapy. Now, our hidden champion this week is the maker of medical laser equipment which can possibly turn even an ugly duckling like me into a Hallyu Prince Charming.
skin treatment that perfects skin with the least amount of trouble, eliminating scars without the hassle of an operation. The treatment refers to laser procedure, which has become a popular method in the cosmetic and aesthetic sectors. A Korean company that specializes in laser treatment equipment has achieved an unrivaled position in the world, taking the realm of laser treatment to the next level. At one hospital in Seoul, laser treatment to get rid of pigment around a lesion is underway. Patients prefer laser procedure because it allows them to get back to normal life right after treatment. Patients experience less pain, which adds to the overall satisfaction of a laser treatment.
다른 피부 관리샵보다는 병원에 와서 피부과 선생님한테 전문적으로 치료를 받으니까 신뢰도 생기고 제가 효과도 좀 만족스럽고 앞으로도 더 많이 종종 방문하고 싶다는 생각이 듭니다.
We can use different lasers to treat different pigmentary disorders, or we can use the laser to get rid of unwanted blood vessels, or we can even use laser to treat the wrinkles in order to clear out the aged skin, in order to rejuvenate.
Lutronic is a company that makes a laser optic medical equipment, which has received global recognition as an innovative medical item. Lutronic is the domestic leader in aesthetic laser treatment, ranked as first in the market. The company got a head start in the laser treatment industry by recognizing the importance and the potential of laser technology, and now stands among the top 10 global firms.
Using this technology, we can make a significant difference in medicine. And also it's interesting because it's a very complex technology involving both physics, mechanical engineering, electronics, IT technology. It's a product manufactured using all these other resources. So the complexity makes it interesting. The nature of the technology allows us to do very, very selective medical treatment, bringing clinically no side effects to other areas. So as a medical device, it has potential to bring great contribution to medical community.
Laser treatment makes the process of cutting and attachment of skin safer compared to the method of skin attachment by burning and cutting with operational knives. The procedure protects normal skin area and destroys only the problem area through precision technology.
보시다시피 종이에는 손상이 없이 검은색의 글자와 빨간색의 문양만 지워진 것을 보실 수가 있습니다. 이것을 저희 피부에 투영을 해보자면 색소 병변, 정상 피부, 그리고 혈관 병변을 예로 들 수가 있습니다. 정상 피부나 조직은 다치지 않으면서 이런 색소 또는 혈관 병변들을 선택적으로 치료할 수 있다는 것이 레이저의 원리라고 보실 수가 있겠습니다.
Laser treatment has the advantage of being convenient and fast. However, the procedure strictly relies on the decision made by dermatology doctors depending on skin type, which determines whether treatment will leave a scar or show side effects.
Everybody responds differently to the same laser treatments. So you have to predict about the complications, you have to know how to prevent the complications, and you have to know how to treat the complications if the complication is inevitable.
Lutronic's next project is set on coming up with the technology to minimize the side effects of laser treatment.
예를 들어 이 제품 같은 경우는 레이저 빔이 한 패턴으로 일정하게 쏘아지는 게 아니라 자동적으로 계산이 된 최적의 거리를 계산해서 조사가 되는 그런 기능들이 있습니다. 그래서 그런 기능들은 이제 과도하게 조직이 온도가 올라간다든지 아니면 그 레이저가 조사된 범위가 겹쳐지면서 그 부위의 부작용이 발생한다든지 그런 것들을 최소화하기 위한 기술적인 노력도 같이 하고 있습니다.
The company's technological achievement is reflected in its continuous sales increase over the past 15 years, coupled with a consecutive surplus in the last 13 years. The company exports to some 60 countries around the world and is receiving a lot of attention from the worldwide medical experts.
In the last few years, especially worldwide, doctors have increased the way they are using the system. Many doctors are buying the equipment right now as a recommendation from other doctors. Okay? The main reputation of Lutronic is that it's a product that is innovative, it's high quality, and it's reliable.
Lutronic products have ventured into the area of medical treatment by moving beyond cosmetic skincare. The company has developed the world's first laser equipment that cures macular edema, which is bringing new hope for diabetics in danger of losing their sight. Lutronic's progress within the medical field seems endless, ranging from cosmetic treatment to curing diseases.
Our vision is, as we have a great in-house technology for developing very precise and very highly applicable laser treatment. We vision that using our technology, we help prevent blindness, help people lead better lives. As we age, improve their appearances, and bring about much more fulfilling and happier lives.
The latest in laser treatment deals with making people more beautiful so they can overcome their outer complex, which in turn saves them from life-threatening pain. The ultimate goal of the medical industry should not be limited to curing diseases or eliminating scars, but to help people regain their smile and happiness.
In the latest North Korean-related news, 9 defectors, including reportedly at least 5 children, who had escaped to Laos, were forced onto an aircraft and returned to their home country. The UN says it is extremely concerned about their fate. Now, this is just the latest in a series of moves by the Pyongyang regime to either prevent its people from escaping or to forcibly repatriate those who manage it. In our North Korean segment, we'll be asking what, if anything, can be done to assist these desperate and highly vulnerable people.
These 9 youngsters' dreams were completely shattered on May 27th as they were forced back to their motherland, North Korea, the world's most isolated and impoverished country. They were en route to South Korea, where they had hopes and dreams to be free and to live like ordinary human beings. Ranging in age 14 to 22, most of them are believed to be North Korean orphans, also known as 꽃제비s or street swallows, who stay alive by begging, scavenging and stealing around Chinese border towns.
고난의 행군 시기에 굉장히 많은 아사자들이 생기면서 그 아사자들의 아이들이 먹고 살 게 없고 아버지 어머니가 다 돌아가시고 하니까 중국 쪽으로 떠들기 시작한 게 이제 꽃제비 역사라고 그렇게 얘기를 합니다.
These 7 boys and 2 girls were a few of the lucky ones that were found and taken into the good care of a South Korean missionary. The pastor, known only by his family name Chu, looked after the young orphans for months at a shelter in China, where they were able to recapture their innocence, health and spirit of youth. Together, they traveled south and crossed into Laos, the country believed to be a major transit hub for North Korean defectors and a safe place to pass through from China to South Korea.
In majority of cases, people are trying to take a boat and go to Thailand. Here was a little different because, as far as I know, this pastor wanted to move the group to Vientiane, to South Korean embassy.
Regardless of their choice of route, all their efforts from crossing the Chinese border to smuggling themselves into Laos faltered as they were detained by the Laotian police on May 10th. And suddenly, 17 days later, North Korean officials accompanied the young defectors, flew out of the Southeast Asian country and returned home.
The North Koreans did all possible efforts to kind of get them before South Koreans get hands on them and before international community knows about this situation.
북한하고 공조를 미리 했다고 볼 수가 있습니다. 아까 대사관 직원이 먼저 나왔던 것도 그렇고요. 어떤 부분에 있어서 반드시 북한하고 공조가 없이는 라오스 혼자 그런 이야기를 할 수가 없습니다.
North Korea alleged the repatriated youths were not defectors but had been kidnapped by the South Korean missionary, subjected to brainwashing and beatings, and forced to convert to Christianity. The Laotian government agreed with the North by claiming that the group made an illegal entry and that Pastor Ju was involved in human trafficking.
어린 아이들이 생존을 찾기 위해서 이렇게 그 망명을 하려고 했는데 그 어린 아이들 사진을 보낸다는 것은 라오스 정부로서는 굉장히 부끄러운 일이거든요. 때문에 그게 거짓말이라는 걸 알면서도 라오스 정부가 이제 궁색한 변명을 하려고 그렇게 주장을 하는 것 같아요.
The United Nations expressed extreme concern over the fate of the young group as they are at risk of severe punishment and ill treatment upon their return. Under the North Korean law, repatriated defectors face a minimum of 5 years of hard labor and up to life in prison or death for serious cases.
Also the fact that they were living with this pastor for several months already in China. They were Christianized. And that's one of the biggest crime ever in North Korea.
이 아이들 문제는 유엔도 관심을 가졌고 또 국제사회가 굉장히 이제 관심을 가지는 그 내용이기 때문에 북한이 이제 이 아이들을 갖다가 뭐 죽이거나 뭐 수용소에 가두기는 좀 부담스럽지 않을까. 그래서 아마 특별 관리를 하면서 북한 언론 매체에 약간 등장시키면서 좀 이제 체제의 선전에 활용을 할 가능성이 좀 높다고 봅니다.
Experts believe it is highly likely, as it was also the case for the defectors who returned to North Korea in recent years, whether by the communist manipulation or by their own will.
북한 주민들 앞에서 네가 용서를 구하고 내가 그 체제에 속았다는 걸 이야기를 해라. 그렇게 얘기함으로써 받아주는 조치를 취하면 일단 대내적으로 봤을 때는 과거에 비해서 내가 다시 힘들어서 북한으로 들어가면 나를 받아줄 수도 있겠구나. 이런 이미지를 생성을 하게 만드는 거죠.
It is believed that there are tens of thousands of North Korean defectors living secretly in China and neighboring countries. And activists worry the repatriation incident presages more complication in an already difficult journey for them.
Not only are 9 people's lives literally at stake, but also almost all of the refugees from North Korea who arrive in South Korea, almost all of them, many of them travel through Laos briefly and then they arrive in Thailand. So if the Laos government continues this policy, it's a huge problem for North Koreans.
North Korean defectors risk their very existence for one instinctive goal: to live. Their right to live must be protected at all costs, and North Korea and its allies must cease repatriating defectors, as it is a serious criminal act that violates the most basic right of all mankind.
And that's all we have time for on Bizline this week. But please do tune in next week, because next week we'll be visiting NeoVision, which dominates the global markets for colour contact lenses. We'll also be taking a look at the technology behind graffiti, 3D graffiti, which brings screen images very vividly to life. So do tune in next week. This was Bizline. I'm Andrew Salmon. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.